What's up, dudes? And welcome back again. So, apparently, there's some leaks on the specs of the Nintendo Switch 2, or the predecessor of the Switch 2, and I'm just as curious about this as you guys are. We're going to be watching a video by RGT85. His channel is amazing. If you've not subscribed to his channel or seen his videos, you need to do so. And if you are a returning viewer and enjoy my videos as well, please subscribe. It'll help the channel grow, and I would greatly appreciate it. All right, let's get into it.
Well, I was going to save this for tomorrow, go watch my other video from today, but with news, you kind of got to be on the pulse about stuff, and this is a story that's definitely been picking up a lot of steam on YouTube, a lot of steam on the social medias, so we're just going to talk about it, and I'm going to give my thoughts about this situation, because we have yet another report on the Nintendo Switch 2, but this one is a little bit different because we get into actual potential specs of this system. The Taiwanese Economic Forum has now done a write-up talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 and actually talks about specifications of the system, such as the screen, how much RAM, how much storage is going to be into the system. So we're just going to talk about what's said in this report, and then I'm going to give my thoughts about it. So basically, one of the things they say is that the retail price of this system will be $400 instead of $300 like the Switch currently is, at least for the base model. And that's something that we've been talking about. It more than likely will be a $400 situation. I'm still kind of hopeful for something like $350, but that's just because I'm a cheap person.
I think $400 is pretty much what I was guessing it was going to be as well. Because if you think about it, when prices go up on everything, and if you're having a next gen console, to have it the same price as the last gen console, it seems a bit weird. The fact that it's going to be 400, you're going to get more bang for your buck, and I hope this is the case.
I understand technological costs, all this sort of stuff. I get it. $400 is quite the investment. But when you've had a system that's been very successful like the Nintendo Switch was, I don't think it's that big of an ask with this. Look at the PlayStation 5 selling very well.
Real quick, I was going to touch base back on that, the price tag there. So, when it comes to certain gamers and people that are really invested into gaming, some people will pay top dollar for the best products. And Nintendo, they have many, many, many good games. And people love collecting for the Nintendo Switch or Nintendo products in general. So I feel like, sometimes the price isn't going to matter to some people if they want the best quality. So that's why I was thinking too, is that if they had different versions of this next gen console, like a base model, a pro model, a light model, that would be amazing. Let's get back into it.
Well at $500 and a somewhat questionable software lineup with that, at least when it comes to first party stuff for 2024 and beyond. But hey, people are still buying PlayStation 5s, and I think people will still buy Nintendo Switch systems because more than likely they've been cooking some stuff. They've been making some games. When you look at the output of games for 2024, smaller projects, remakes, remasters, that sort of stuff that you normally see at the end of a system's life cycle. But where things get very interesting is they give sort of a release window for this system and then some specs of the system. So first off, they say that it will be launching in the second half of the year, or it's likely to launch in the second half of the year. I think we can all sort of agree on that. There is no January Nintendo Switch 2 event. Everyone who said that just should go in a corner and try to learn from their mistakes and try to learn from their follies by sort of believing that. And then we get
That's kind of my whole standpoint on that too. I heard that it was going to come out the first quarter of 2024, and I was like, I'm not really buying that, because Nintendo would have released some kind of video on it or something, and some kind of trailer or something, and there's been nothing, and there's been no presentation or anything. So I definitely feel like it's going to come out more towards September and the next holiday season. That would be smart for Nintendo. So, give the Switch OLED, and this Switch, it's run its last good year, and then at the end of the year, then present us with something new. That'd be smart. Like the Switch OLED, when it first came out, that came out in September, and that was a perfect time.
Into the actual specs of the system. So the first thing we're going to talk about is that according to the Taiwanese Economic Forum, that this system will have a screen refresh rate of 120 hertz, which is a
Yeah.
good thing. If you know anything about screen refresh rates and stuff like that, the higher the better usually with this. My monitor that I'm using to record this is 120 hertz. The Asus ROG Ally also has a 120 hertz screen. And I still think
Yeah.
that ROG Ally screen is really good. I never got a Steam Deck OLED model because I didn't really see the need for it. I understand that OLED screens can look better than an LCD screen, but it all sort of comes down to what sort of screen they're going to be using as far as LCD screens are concerned with the Switch 2. I think we're all
That's a very great point. Excuse me. So when it comes to handhelds, where we are in the future right now, we're so ahead. You have the Rogue Asus Ally, which is the handheld that I have. I don't have the Steam Deck, but I have the Asus Rogue Ally, and that thing is amazing. 120 hertz, 1080p. That is perfect, and games look great on it. I was playing Half-Life on it, the definitive edition, the Black Mesa version, and it looks and runs so freaking smooth. Like it really gives you a glimpse into what handhelds can be. The only downside is that you got to do constant updates on it, and it's pretty heavy. So the portability of it and the whole comfortability of it, or how comfortable it is, it's not really that great. But the potential on where handhelds are going, dude, it's looking up. So if Nintendo can kind of do that, but also make it more lightweight, find a way to work around that, I think that'd be awesome. And yeah, I really think that it's time for Nintendo to step it up and get with today's standards. 1080p, 120 hertz. There's no reason why we should still be having a 720p on handheld screens. That's just a bit ridiculous in my opinion, but it is what it is. I still love Nintendo, still going to buy their products.
kind of under the assumption that it is going to be an LCD screen, but an LCD screen with 120 hertz refresh rate, that's sort of something like an Asus ROG Ally. So I think that would be awesome. I love the screen on my ROG Ally. So if that is
Yeah.
indeed what they are planning to use with this system, I think that's awesome. Then we get into some more specs and 64 gigs of storage. Now, if that's the case, if the Taiwanese Economic Forum is indeed right on 64 gigs of storage, that's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous to me because you need more storage than that. We're talking about games that are, exceeding 32 gigs regularly on the standard Nintendo Switch.
Yes, it would be nice to have more storage. But if you think about it too, that if they're selling their products for $400 and you're getting really good specs to go with it, just buy an SD card. You can get a terabyte one for, I don't know, 50, $70 or so. But you don't need that right away. You can actually just buy the console and then in a month or two, then upgrade the memory if you want to. But there's definitely ways to work around that. You don't have to have a bunch of memory on this thing 'cause that's going to take up more components and more storage and cost more in the end. So I think they're trying to make it cost efficient, and then you can do what you want with it afterwards.
System. Why can't you give me 400? I'm not going to ask for a ton. Give me 300 to 400 gigs. The flash memory is so cheap right now, and I understand there's going to be people in the comment section, well, if it's 64 gigs, it's not that big of a deal. You could just buy an SD card. We're assuming that it will use micro SD cards.
That's what I
much
just said.
like the Nintendo Switch system does now, which I get it. And that storage medium is indeed cheap, but there still needs to be more onboard storage than 64 gigs because that's if you're planning on having these third-party games, Call of Duty, like I get it, they don't optimize these games the same way that Nintendo usually does, but Nintendo themselves are starting to make bigger games. Look at Tears of the Kingdom. It's the largest file size for a Nintendo Switch game. If we want
Dude, speaking about Tears of the Kingdom, I've actually like dove back into that game. That game is so freaking massive. It's it's incredible. It's like an MMORPG on the Switch. And it just baffles me because I'm like, how in the heck did they fit all of this into one little cartridge? It makes no sense to me. It blows my mind. This game is massive. Tears of the Kingdom. If you've never played it yet, you have to play it. It's incredible and it's insanely massive. There's thousands of shrines, so many places to go, so many things to do. It's incredible.
Games to keep going in that sort of direction where the production values are higher and the games themselves are bigger, I'm going to need more storage space on this bad boy. So I don't really care for that. And then one of the big things is that this will be using NVIDIA's T239 processor
Yeah.
and feature 8 gigabytes of RAM.
I'm excited for
That's
that.
what a lot of people are hung up on right now is the 8 gigabytes of RAM. Because when
Dude, it's about time Nintendo starts collabing with these other companies. Nvidia is great. They're going to make the games and they're going to make them look great and run great. That's going to be a huge step up for Nintendo. Finally, they're finally getting with the times. That's a huge win for Nintendo.
you look at RAM on other systems and other platforms, we just talked about something like the Steam Deck. We just talked about something like the ROG Ally. That has 16 gigabytes of RAM. 8 gigabytes of RAM, that's more akin to something like a PlayStation 4. So people are thinking, well, this is already potentially going to be outdated at the end of the day when this system comes out in potentially the second half of 2024. But that's kind of in line with, I think, what a lot of people are expecting. Like PlayStation 4 on the go, like I think that's what people are thinking that this Nintendo Switch 2 was going to be. I mean, that's something, you know, to be at the level of a PlayStation 5, to be at the level of an Xbox Series X, in terms of raw power, I don't think that was ever on the table for a hybrid nature system, which is what we assume that this system is going to be. When you have 8 gigs of RAM, but you have things like DLSS upscaling, which is also something we are assuming is going to be in this next system,
Yep.
it's not going to be a one-to-one with the PlayStation 4. That artificial intelligence upscaling things will allow for things and games to look and run better than they would natively on an 8 gigs on the PlayStation 4. So I think as long as this does have some upscaling technology, which a lot of us are assuming, and that 120 hertz refresh rate of a screen also leads me to believe, because a lot of these Switch games that we have right now, they're not running anywhere near that. They're running at, 30 frames. I think it's a decent balance. People get so hung up on the raw numbers and the raw horsepower, and I get it. But if this is indeed the case, I don't think it is time to panic and get worried about that 8 gigs of RAM. As long as something is supplementing that 8 gigs of RAM, the system itself, I feel, will be fine and still be a viable platform.
I think so too. Excuse me. When it comes to upscaling and everything like that, that's going to be amazing. It's going to take our old Switch games and make them look and run even better on this new gen console. Kind of like how you play your PS4 games on the PS5. They look way better and run amazing than they did on the PS4. So I believe that's what's going to happen for this next gen console. And that's going to be amazing because I cannot wait. That's going to be like replaying all your old games for the first time again, but in like a whole new light. That's going to be awesome.
Platform won't feel, like a full generation behind or something like that, and could potentially do things that weren't possible on the PlayStation 4. But even if you look at the PlayStation 4's like most impressive games, The Last of Us 2, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, in terms of graphics, like imagine that kind of on the go. Like, is that a bad thing inherently? We do have to keep in mind though that the Taiwanese Economic Forum, they're not exactly the most credible place in the world. They're not exactly, always accurate, but it's something worth talking about. They're putting their reputation on the line with this sort of thing. So I think it's interesting. I'm not going to say that I necessarily believe all of this because why of all places would they have the inside scoop on that? But it is kind of in line with some things that we have been hearing. And honestly, if this was sort of the end result, if this was what we ended up getting with the Nintendo Switch 2, as long as there is some sort of artificial upscaling that coincides along with it, I don't think it's doom and gloom. I don't think it's the end of the world. And I think that it's more so what developers do with that power. I mean, even when you look at the Switch itself, like look at a game like Super Mario Odyssey or The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and then look at a game like King Kong or Kong Skull Island or WWE 2K18. It really comes down to what the developers are able to do and how easily accessible tools are to work on the system. But I just wanted to talk about this with you guys because it's gaining steam. I know 2 videos in one day, I spoil you. Like, what is this, your Christmas? It's your Three Kings Day? I think Three Kings Day coming up soon. I remember one time for Three Kings Day because my Puerto Rican aunt got me a what was it? It was a third-party N64 controller. And like that was cooler than anything I had gotten at Christmas. So I was like, yeah, Three Kings Day, what's up? Let me know what you think of all this in the comment section down below though. Do you think this would be a wise move for Nintendo to keep costs down with this? Do you think that this is something that is kind of a bit of a mistake? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Make sure you check out the video from earlier today. We talk about PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch potentially getting more Xbox games. That's a whole nother story, but I felt like this story was different enough that I can make 2 videos in the same day. And as always, guys, make sure you subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.
Excuse me. All right, so my thoughts is that the whole AI upscaling and them working with NVIDIA, that's definitely going to ramp up the graphics, the power, and the frame rates. That's going to be amazing. Pretty much that's confirmed. That's like confirmed. And that's what I'm most excited for because that's also going to keep costs down too. AI upscaling is getting better and better. And as time goes on, imagine a year from now, you're going to have updates all the time with this new next gen console, which is going to be great. Kind of a side topic, but my TV, it had this new update and a new setting where you can actually AI upscale it. And I turned it on and it looks pretty darn good. It actually makes things look and, the frame rates look a bit smoother and the color and the certain, setting stuff, it kind of blends everything together just perfectly. It looks really, really good actually. So I'm all for that. AI upscaling. And yeah, this is going to be awesome, man. I can't wait for the next gen console release date and what they have in store. And I'm just as curious about this as you guys are. And yeah, any new updates I find on the internet, I'll be sure to watch it with you guys. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and definitely subscribe to RGT85's channel. He's awesome. All right. Well, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video and hope you guys have a good day. Bless you guys. Have a good one. Peace.